Congressman Tony Gonzales from District 23 is joining me here on the Stevens Roofing Newsmaker Hotline. Congressman, great to meet you here on the air, and thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, no, this is my first time on the show, Trey. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about it.
It's good to have you. Me too. So let's talk about the border real quick here, because that's the big story. Obviously, that is the big story. There's not a bigger crisis or a bigger story that is affecting not only us here in South Texas, but I believe the entire country right now. So just a general overall view from your point of view, 10,000 feet in the air looking down at this thing.
Yeah, so, my district's 42% of the southern border.
Yep.
I'm literally on the border every single week, and everybody from ranchers to farmers to elected officials to Border Patrol agents, sheriffs, everybody says the exact same thing, which is this is as bad as it's ever been.
Worse.
And sadly, it's getting worse. Exactly. Every month that goes by, it gets worse. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is saying everything is okay. Everything is not okay. And, they have done specific policy decisions that have made things worse. And above all that, people are dying. I mean, there's these migrants that are dying, horrible deaths. It's all terrible. Although people don't feel safe in their homes, it's all just a chaotic situation all the way around.
So now and this is something we've been talking about, we're seeing a spike in COVID. And I've been saying since Joe Biden became president, you open the border, sir, and you're going to be importing COVID. And now we have a report out of Rio Grande that 40 agents tested positive in the Rio Grande. This week alone, 40 of our Border Patrol agents. Don't tell me COVID's not coming in through the southern border. It sure is.
That's exactly. No, you're spot on. And look, I visited all these facilities. I visited the facility at JBSA in San Antonio, the one in Fort Bliss, out in Pecos, out in Eagle Pass, every single one of them. And the story is the same. About 10% of the population has COVID. Well, what I'm seeing now is the spike is happening. I got a call yesterday from the facility out in Pecos, the unaccompanied minor facility out there, that they're having an outbreak. So to your point, I mean, it is a dangerous situation. And our Border Patrol agents, our sheriffs, they're on the front lines of this haul. I mean, they're the ones that are kind of the last strand keeping the floodgates from busting wide open.
So I have a report now that the fentanyl that's coming into the country now is up to levels that would kill over 70% of the United States. That was caught just this month coming across the border, 78% higher this fiscal year than last year, 8,507 pounds of fentanyl compared to 4,000 pounds that came in last year, 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine, and just a tiny amount kills people. But more than 70% of the people in our country could be killed by the amount of fentanyl that came in last month across the southern border.
Absolutely. I mean, the fentanyl, it highlights the dangers of it all. What really scares me, and you're spot on. I mean, the numbers are historic numbers, and we should all be terrified of it. But the part that really scares me is, what about all the stuff that we aren't catching? What about all the people that we aren't catching? If we were able to catch this, which we know that's only a sliver of it, what about all the other stuff that's coming in? I go back to it. Biden caused this crisis. Biden has to fix it. I mean, it's a failure of leadership on that on the White House. But meanwhile, it really feels like Texans are alone. Like, we're alone to go about this battle. It's very frustrating. But things are only getting worse by the day.
Okay. So, have you heard from the vice president? She's the border person. And your district is 40% of the border. Have you heard from her?
I have not. And that was one of the things too, is like, I reached out early on, and honestly to this day too, is to go, look, every president has had to deal with border security and immigration, every single one of them. And Biden is no different. Sometimes you handle it better than others. And clearly y'all haven't been handling it well. I want to work with you. I want you to know what's happening on the ground. But they are so like their head in the sand that they know best. This 30,000 foot, we're going to do what's best for you. I mean, it's really unfortunate. They have no interest. Bottom line is this: they have zero interest in solving this problem.
No, they don't.
Clear.
These are future voters. These are voters that are going to vote against you. These are voters who are going to vote for Democrats, and this is the plan. It's been the plan from the very beginning. I have an exclusive report from them right now. From the Democrats, I'm talking about tearing down ICE piece by piece, demolishing ICE, getting rid of ICE, cutting $331 million below the 2021 enacted level from their funding and much more that they're doing to tear apart ICE. Before I run out of time, Congressman, I do have to ask you about Laughlin Air Force Base, however.
Yeah, of course.
It came to me that you were the one who encouraged that our military be flying people out of Laughlin Air Force Base all across the country, illegal aliens. So I wanted to give you a chance to explain, if that's so, why would that be a smart thing to do?
Yeah, no, this is my take on it. I am 100% against catch and release, and this crisis started kind of in the Rio Grande Valley, and that was the hot topic area for the longest time. Well, now the hot button area is in Del Rio.
Yep.
So in the Rio Grande Valley, they had excess amount of migrants. So what they were doing, they were releasing them in the streets at the beginning. And then they started flying them to other detention centers. So in Del Rio, the same thing was happening. Mm-hmm. They were getting over 1,000 migrants, and they were releasing 300 migrants a day at the stripes. Imagine being at Valero down the street and 300 migrants are there, not only today, but tomorrow, the next day. Like there was no end in sight.
Yep.
So all I did was to go, look, catch and release is unacceptable. These people need to be processed, whether they get processed in Del Rio, whether they get processed in El Paso. I don't care where they get processed, but they have to get processed. They cannot be released into our streets without that. And that's what's happened. I reached out to Laughlin. I'm going to visit them here in the next couple of weeks just to make sure everything is happening the way that it was intended. But I'm told there are no military planes that are being used, that this is ICE and DHS. The only thing they're using at Laughlin is the airfield. And for me, the reason I pushed on that was I go, what do you need in order to not release migrants in the streets?
But where are they? They're releasing them somewhere, though, Tony. Where are they releasing them?
Yeah, they send them to these processing centers, and then they get processed. And then from there, honestly, they go all over the country, literally all 50 states. I mean, everybody's in on. I mean, every state, every city is a border city. The chaos is through the roof. I mean, the bottom line is the only way this gets solved is if the Biden administration, pulls its head out of its ass and honestly reinstates some of the Trump policies that work.
Well, look, the only one they need to do is stay in Mexico. That's the only policy they need to put back in place. Stay in Mexico. That's it. You have to stay there. And that was the first thing that Joe Biden took down, and anybody could have seen what was going to happen. He promised them health care. He said, you don't have to stay in Mexico. Come on in. And now they're shoving over fences to get in here. And I've got rancher friends that are having their property completely destroyed. They're having to sleep with guns in the bed next to them because they've been threatened. Their wives and children have been threatened by these people. And the main thing that they will say over and over again is that this is a different type of migrant who's coming in here now. They're more aggressive now than they were 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago back in the Cesar Chavez days. Different world back then. Today, they're very aggressive, and they're coming after folks. When I heard about the Laughlin thing, I went off because the way it was presented to me is that the military, with military aircraft and members of the military, were taking these people and flying them all over and just cutting them loose in the streets wherever they took them to. They were just cutting them loose and letting them go. And I had a hissy fit right here on the, I don't know, that's not even a cool term anymore. I lost my S right here on the radio station because that is not the place of our military. No way.
No, I agree 1,000%. I mean, they shouldn't be focused on this at all. Sadly, everybody is sucked into this chaos. I mean, you look at Fort Bliss, they're sucked into the chaos as well. You look at JBSA, like at Lackland, like everybody has been sucked into this. But no, I'm being told no military planes are used. The only thing they use at Laughlin is the airfield to fly these instead of releasing them in the streets in Del Rio, which is a major problem.
Oh, I know it is.
They're flying them to other detention centers to get processed.
I've got friends in Del Rio who tell me that it's just a huge mess and seeing the people walking all over the streets. One quick phone call here. Chris, you're on KTSA with Congressman Tony Gonzales. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Congressman Gonzales, why were you one of the 35 that voted to establish what is, I guarantee you, a partisan commission to investigate 1-6? And I'll hang up and listen.
Go ahead. Chris will listen. He'll listen. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay. Hey, Chris, thanks for that question. So I had two choices, and we're seeing what happened. I had choice number one is a partisan commission, which is exactly what Nancy Pelosi wants, this commission that she would control, and you're seeing it unfold. And option two was a bipartisan commission where Republicans actually had a seat at the table. We would determine who was going to be subpoenaed. Look, it's all going to be a circus, but that was going to be less of a circus. I'll also say I voted against the January 6th commission led by Nancy Pelosi. So we're seeing that right now. The bottom line is this. I mean, Pelosi has one thing, one goal, and that is everything's about Trump. I mean, Trump's not even in office anymore, and they wake up and they go to bed thinking about Trump. Yep. Bottom line, she is a lame duck. She is a lame duck speaker, and her time is going to be up in 22.
So so I thought it was a smart move that Mr. McCarthy did yesterday, and I thought it was a good way of proving once again that this is nothing more than MSNBC with subpoena power. That's all Nancy Pelosi's going to do with this. It's going to be like the impeachment process. She says she wants something with legitimacy. Then why is Adam Schiff on that committee? You know, it just makes no sense at all as to why they're doing this, other than two things they're trying to do out of this, Tony. Number one is they're going after Donald Trump. You're 1,000,000% correct. Yep. They are scared of him in 2024, so they're going after him. And number two, they're going to use it to take civil liberties away from ordinary citizens like you and me. That's exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, and you know what? They don't talk about BLM. They don't talk about the riots in Portland. Nope. None of that. This is all a political circus. I saw this coming a mile away. I'd rather have Republicans on there with a say-in on it than what we're going to have now. But, I mean, I think it's very evident, her saying you can't have Jim Jordan and Jim Banks, which is ridiculous. You don't get to choose what members we put on this commission. But I do like McCarthy's approach to go, you know what, we're not going to play it all. Yeah. And it's going to be evident that your whole commission has nothing to do with making sure another January 6th never happens.
Sir, we're out of time. I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Trey.
Thank you for your time.